Okay, so they do a lot of things and they're very, very sneaky about how they make you look like you're the one who is the problem. And I want to help you figure this out. And you want to make sure you watch all the way to the end, because I'm going to save the best one till the end so that you can make sure that you know what they do before they do it. All right. So you're going to be on to them by watching this video. So the number one thing that they do is they trigger you. They trigger you. They goad you. They trigger you in a number of different ways. They do it in person, of course. I mean, I've seen clients where they're soon to be ex, they show up with video equipment, they do all this ridiculous stuff to try to goad you, to try to trigger you, they want to get under your skin. They purposely do things. They purposely try to trigger you so that they try to get a reaction out of you. And then they use that reaction against you. They go, oh, look, that's the one who's crazy. And they use that reaction against you. And remember, in a divorce or a breakup, even if it's a business situation, because I had dealt with a narcissist in a business situation, they use that against you. It's like getting arrested. Anything you do or say will be used against you. And I'm going to tell you right now, anything you put your hand to is a potential trial exhibit. Anything you write, anything you post is a potential trial exhibit. So before you hit send, before you hit post, just imagine the judge is like watching over your shoulder, like looking at you. And if you don't want to see it again at a very inopportune time, like on cross-examination, then don't hit send, don't hit post, because you will. And I've had to be in that situation where I've had to defend clients, and you don't want to be in that situation. You don't want to get caught, and you don't want your lawyer or you, if you're representing yourself, to be trying to spin that. So don't allow them to trigger you. Don't allow them to put yourself in that position. Just, go gray rock. You know what gray rock is? You're like a gray rock. You're just like a boulder. You just sit there and you're just like, okay, got it. I see you. Just observe their behavior. And I have a whole lot more on that in my video called Narcissism 101, What It Means to Go Gray Rock. And you can definitely check that out if you want to know more about that. And I highly recommend that you do, because that will definitely help you. All right. So number one, they try to trigger you, and then they use your reaction against you. Number two, they accuse you of being the one who is abusive. And they do this either to your face or in pleadings or in letters or in emails. They write it to you, and then they use that as an exhibit, or they put it right in Our Family Wizard or whatever, or they say it to their flying monkeys. And they do this even sometimes long before the discard phase, or they accuse you of being some kind of alcoholic or some kind of drug addict or whatever. And they do this even long before the discard phase, like they'll start planting these seeds, and they put it in terms of care and concern. They'll say, oh, I'm so concerned about her, she had a little too much to drink last night. And, I'm just so worried. I'm so worried about her, and they'll say that even long before you start to break up sometimes. And then when you do end up breaking up, they can say, oh, so-and-so has a drinking problem. I told you about that. Remember I mentioned that to you a long time ago? You see what I'm saying? That's what happens. And you just need to shut that down right away. And I do have a video on how to shut down the narcissist smear campaign, which you can check out as well. And you just, shut them down. If you agree with me on that, just put shut them down in the comments right now. Shut them down. It's time to shut them down. And you can definitely do that. Shut them down. Okay. The next thing they do is, the whole gaslighting thing, make you feel like everything is your fault. And, that whole projection and deflection thing, lying and denying, projection and deflection, they're very, very good at making you feel like everything is your fault all the time. They constantly are twisting things and making you feel like you're always wrong. You're the problem. And so you feel like you're inadequate all the time. If you had just done more, that things could have been better. And they do this to other people as well. And so they paint this picture that you were the problem, that, if you'd have just made more money, or if you'd have just done this, or if you'd have just done that. So you just constantly feel like everything is your fault, that's why you are where you are in life, because everything is your fault. So that's number 3. Number 4 is they literally file false pleadings. So they might actually file like a false domestic violence injunction. They might actually put things in a divorce petition that is actually false. I've seen that all the time. Or they might actually just write a letter to the other attorney that is actually false. Or they might actually file a false financial document, or they might actually file a false motion or something like that, where they actually put things in affidavits that are just blatantly false. And then you have to sit there and defend yourself and say, this is not true, or that's not true. They'll say that you spent all kinds of money. That's not true. And make it look like you are this person who is really, really careless with money. Or they might just say that you are really, really irresponsible with your children, that you didn't feed them at all for like the entire weekend, or you only fed them junk food for the entire weekend, or something like that. So those are the kinds of things that they'll do to make it look like you are the problem. And then the last thing that they will do, number five, is they will literally manipulate evidence. I've seen them actually hack into people's computers and delete emails out of people's computers, but the other ones might actually present evidence in court where they take several chunks of text messages out. That's why I tell people use email, use court-approved apps, things like that. It's a lot harder to manipulate emails. It's a lot harder to manipulate court-approved apps, meaning like, if you have children using apps like Our Family Wizard or Talking Parents or Co-Parenter or something like that, they're much harder to manipulate. Text messages are much easier to manipulate. So they literally will manipulate evidence. I've seen it happen. Depending on how malignant the narcissist is, they will do that. They will maybe even try to tamper with witnesses, try to get people to change their testimony, try to get people to lie. I've seen moms get up on the stand and lie for their kids. But sometimes, if they're older, they have like their specific lines that they're supposed to say. And then once they get on cross-examination, they get off track and they get off script and they're not exactly sure what they're supposed to say beyond that, which is kind of an interesting thing to see sometimes. But they will lie, they will manipulate evidence. So those are the kinds of things, those are the kinds of tricks that you see narcissists pull to make you look like you are the one who is the problem. If you guys have seen anything like that, let me know and put what you've seen in the comments below. And if you need any additional help, make sure to grab my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet at winmynegotiation.com, and make sure to join my free private Facebook group at Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, make sure that you do that, subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. And if you need additional support, we do have a partnership with BetterHelp which we have a link to below also. And as always, remember that today is a great day to start negotiating your best life. All right, so we are going to go over 7 ways that narcissists make you look like the liar, and so that you can be protected, you can protect yourself when they come at you. I've seen every single one of them so many times. They're so transparent, right? The one good thing about narcissists is that they are so predictable. They are horrible and heinous to deal with. It is awful, awful, but they are very, very predictable. I know when they come at you, it like causes you to feel so, blood starts to boil. You start to feel sick inside. You start to feel, your chest pounding. You start to feel nauseous. Like you don't even want to look at your phone. I know, believe me, I do. But they can't win unless you give in. You're not going to do that because they're actually more afraid of you than you are of them. They don't want you to figure that out. All right. And I've helped so many people uncover them. I know how to get them. Right. So listen all the way to the end so that you can shift that dynamic too, so that you can become more powerful against them. All right. So, number one way that they make you look like the liar is they start smear campaigns with their flying monkeys. And now let me tell you, their flying monkeys are their little minions, they're people that they line up to try to make you look bad. Everybody else thinks this and no one else thinks that. And if you want to know more about what narcissists say, definitely check out my video on narcissist favorite sayings. They say all kinds of stuff like that all the time. But they start their smear campaigns, by the way, sometimes long before you even realize it. And they're really, really good because they'll say things like, I'm really concerned about how much they're drinking. I'm just because I care. They'll put it in terms like that. They don't say, oh, they're an alcoholic a lot of times. I mean, they'll couch it in terms of care so that they don't look like they're bad mouthing. So that's one of the things that they'll do. And then they'll be like, you're over there going, I'm not that way, and then the minute you have like one glass of wine in your hand or whatever, their flying monkeys are like, oh, yeah, there they are, alcoholic, right? Because that seed has been planted in a person's brain. So that's one way that they make you look like the liar. Number 2 is they will distort emails or texts by cutting pieces of it out. That's why I like email best, honestly, because it's much harder to do that with email because you can see the email chain. They have the heading there. You can actually see the date, the timestamp, all of it is right there. And so if like pieces of it are missing, it's a whole lot easier. Texts, it's a lot easier, and texts like go on and on and on, and it's a lot harder to follow. And so they do distort that, especially in court, especially in mediations and things like that. So that's why I do prefer email. Like if you have children, I definitely prefer that you use like a app, one of those court approved apps, things like that. So they'll distort that. They will cut pieces out. They'll use just the parts that they like. Very, very, very manipulative. Number 3, the number 3 thing that they use to make you look like the liar is they will take pictures. They will take pictures. They will take video, and they will just show the parts that they want. Now, I know, they're not supposed to be doing video, audio, things like that. But sometimes, because they can't, sometimes it's not admissible in court. Pictures can be, but audio a lot of times is not. But they can show those things or play those things sometimes for custody evaluators, other types of people who are involved with the court system a lot of times. So a lot of times it can be useful. You can use it too, by the way. But, they'll just play and show the parts that they want, make it, make you look like the liar. Or they'll just play it for their flying monkeys or their potential witnesses. They create the narrative that they want to create. right? So that's number 3. Number 4, this one is so manipulative. So manipulative. But I've definitely seen narcissists do this to make people look like liars. They will confirm conversations in emails or texts that never took place. This is to confirm that you said that I could have so and so next weekend on your weekend, the child. What? We never had that conversation, but they'll put that in the little app there, the custody app. Oh, yeah. I've seen that. And then they show that to the court. Well, we had the conversation. We never had that conversation. Oh, yes, we did. They make you look like the liar. So manipulative. I have a whole video, by the way, on this is how you deal with narcissist false allegations. Definitely check out my video on that, because you're going to write back right away in the app. We never had that conversation, and I really don't appreciate that you're trying to create a false conversation. But you're going to watch my video on this is how you deal with narcissist false allegations. And number five way that narcissists make you look like the liar is they trigger you to get super emotional, and then they sit over there super calm, and you can't buy into that. You can't do that, right? They trigger you, get you all upset, and then use that against you, and then you look like the liar, right? They get you to be emotional while they remain calm, and then you look like the liar. That's number 5. Number 6 way that they make you look like the liar while they remain calm is they will instigate domestic violence in the home, and you end up fighting back just to self-defense. And then they call the cops and then blame you and say you were the instigator. And then you look like the liar. That is really, really bad. And then they'll end up filing for the restraining order and say you were the aggressor, whether it's man or woman, by the way. I've seen it in both sides, male or female. That's very, very, very manipulative, but I've seen both sexes do it. And be very, very careful about that. Don't allow yourself to fall into that trap, especially if you've got somebody who potentially could be a malignant narcissist who doesn't even care if they will ruin your career or whatever. All right. So just put no more in the comments if you don't want any more of this drama that you're dealing with a narcissist. I want you to put no more in the comments right now. All right. Because you're done with this drama. And number 7, way they make you look like a liar, segues right into what I'm about to say, which is they create drama, all kinds of drama, and blame it on you wherever they go. All kinds of drama. They make it so angry and yelling and all sorts of things happening, birthday parties, holidays, whatever it is, and then say it was your fault. You created it. You're the one. You made the problem, whatever it was. Drama, 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 wherever. You caused it. Look at you. It was because you were mad, or you did this, or you didn't pay that, or you did this. I mean, and you're over there like minding your own business going, what? I didn't do anything. You're the one. Can't you see? Oh my God. They pick on you and they create drama. It's constant wherever you go, whatever's happening. They're just sucking you into this thing all the time. And there you are. And if you're not careful, you're just going to be in it. And so you got to be really, really vigilant, because they're going to make you look like the liar no matter what you do. Those are the 7 ways that narcissists make you look like the liar. And now you know to be on the watch for them and Now, you know that you're not going to allow yourself to get sucked into them because you're going to slay the day. You know what to do. 4 ways that narcissists make you look like the abuser. And more importantly, what can you do about it? So, first of all, why do narcissists do this sort of thing? Well, they do this sort of thing because when you go into the discard phase of a relationship, which is the last phase of a relationship, and if you want to know more about the discard phase of a relationship, I have a whole video on the discard phase specifically of a narcissistic relationship, and you can definitely check that out. But when you go into that, this is when you see the birth of the smear campaign. This is when you become public enemy number 1. They see things in black and white. You either have to be for them or against them. It can't be this amicable thing. And by the way, even if they say, oh, I want it to be amicable and we can do this ourselves and all of that sort of thing, do not believe them. Do not buy into it, because what's going to happen is they're going to be way ahead of you. And by the way, they're going to get you to agree to all sorts of things, and they're going to try to hold you to those agreements. And then they're not going to hold themselves to any of those agreements. Okay. So don't buy into any of that. And the other thing that happens is that you end up saying, oh, I'll give you blah, 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 thinking it's going to garner some sort of favor with them. And it doesn't. Like, they just take it, they think that they're entitled to it or something, and it just goes into the wind and forgotten. And you're over there going, hey, I gave you all this stuff, and they don't think of it as anything fantastic or at all. I was supposed to have that or whatever. And you don't end up getting any kind of credit for any of that. So don't bother. It doesn't help you. The only thing it does is actually hurt you, because you gave up a lot of your leverage in the long run. Just don't do any of that sort of thing. So going back to the 4 ways that the narcissist makes you look like the abuser and what you can do about it. So what they will do is they'll do things like, number 1, send you texts or emails that make you look like they accused you of abuse or affairs constantly, and then try to use the emails that they sent you in court. Or they'll take parts of emails and texts. It's like, this is all still part of number 1. They take these parts of emails or texts and they try to fashion them or manipulate them in some way to make it look like that was abuse or an affair or something like that. What you can do about it is, first of all, texting is not good, because texting is something that can easily be manipulated. And that's why I do prefer email, because email is much harder to manipulate than texts. Emails do have a time and date stamp on them, much easier to see the chain on it. Text is much harder. Or use a court-approved app if you do have children. But that's one of the things that they will do. They'll send you something that accuses you. I can't believe you said that, did that, pushed me, that sort of thing. So that's number 1. Number 2 is they will start planting seeds with their flying monkeys long before you even realize that there's going to be a breakup happening. So they'll start telling their little flying monkeys, their little minions, long before that, oh, he was abusive to me, he said this to me, she said this to me, and this is business related or personal, by the way. And they'll use the word abuse. Even if it wasn't abusive, they'll use the word abuse. Even if, let's say they pushed you down, they did all this stuff, and all you did was like get them off of you. They'll say, he restrained me, he wouldn't let me go. They'll totally turn it around so that you were the attacker, you were the abuser. They'll make it look like they're the victim. They are enduring this. You don't even realize that they've been telling people these things, maybe even for months, maybe even for years. And so all of a sudden, after the relationship is done, you realize that all these people think that you are abusive or either emotionally, physically, or whatever. Okay. I do have a whole video on how to shut down a narcissist smear campaign, and you might want to check that out. I highly recommend that you check that out. And right now, I just want you to put shut them down in the comments so that you can just start mentally getting yourself ready. Shut them down. Okay. Because you can, you absolutely can. I've helped thousands of people personally, millions of people through this channel. You can do it too. First thing you have to do is believe that you can. No one can help you if you don't believe that you can. All right. You got this. Number 3 thing that they do is they'll start yelling, they'll start screaming, they'll start even calling things out. They'll start doing all kinds of things to seem super dramatic, even if you are super calm, because they want to make it seem like there's something major happening. They may even call the cops first. You know, they may even call cops and get them involved and say that you were the aggressor and make it seem like there was something horrible happening, even if they were the aggressor first. They may call the police, get the police involved, even if they were the first aggressor, and say that you were, and file a police report, even if they were the first aggressor, and say that you were. They may point to scratches on their arm and all that sort of thing, because even if it was you defending yourself, they'll make it seem like you were the one who was the problem. I do have a whole video. It's called Do This to Not React to Narcissists. I would definitely check that out as well. And, you know, make sure that you keep really, really careful records of absolutely everything. Super important. You know, in my SLAY program, I actually have the 12 areas that you should be documenting, and I teach people how to do that. You know, whether it's a business situation or a personal situation, I actually have a whole module on how to document properly. But if you are just doing it on your own, make sure you're just keeping really, really careful records. Okay. The next thing that they will do, the 4th thing that they will do to make you look like the abuser is they will actually file false pleadings, fraudulent pleadings. They will lie. They will straight up, bald face, no problemo, lie in court. Yeah, they will write it out, give it to their lawyer. Their lawyer will write it up for them, file it in the court, sit there and lie in court. Don't get too concerned about all of that when that happens. I know some people get really freaked out when that happens. It is something that's deeply upsetting when that happens. They do have to prove it, but you know, there you are on the defensive. One of the things I want you to do is watch my video, stop defending yourself, do this instead. If they are writing you emails that you want to defend yourself on, you know, just write, I'm in receipt of your correspondence. I deny your allegations, you know, whatever. You don't need to respond point by point by point by point, because that's just, then they pull you in and then now you're stuck in the mud with them. And that's what they want you to do. Don't get drawn in, because then they're like leading you by the nose and they get supply from that. Don't allow yourself to be emotionally triggered by them. That is exactly what they want. You know, they want you to be emotionally triggered by them. They get off on that. That gives them a high. And remember that anything that you put your hand to is a potential trial exhibit. Just remember that. Just remember that when you get emotional and they get you yelling, they get you screaming, they get you upset, they get you hitting back, or they get you verbally assaulting them back, and all of that sort of thing, it also goes against you. And that's what they want. I mean, because then judges and the police, they just see two people who are fighting. They just see two people who can't handle themselves. They just see two people who are emotional. And that's not what you want. You want to be the one who's wearing the white hat. You want to be the one that's like, they're the aggressor, they are the abuser, they are the ones that are crazy. They try to goad you, they try to trigger you, they try to get you upset, they try to trigger you. They do everything they can to get under your skin, because they do want you to look like the abuser. They do want you to look like the crazy one. And I mean, I've seen guys, they show up with their video equipment and their camera equipment for visits, to try to make the other person get upset or whatever, and do whatever they can. I mean, all kinds of crazy, stupid stuff to get the other person triggered. And don't take the bait. Do not take the bait when they do these things. Just stay the course, pretend like you're reporting the news. Don't allow yourself to get sucked into the mud with them, because if you do, then they have you. So stay away from that, stay on the outside of that, and keep your records. Slay methodology absolutely does work. That's what you have to do in order to beat them, in order to win. Let's talk about that narcissist's most dangerous lie. They lie about everything, right? Narcissists lie as a way of life. They lie about all kinds of stuff, including things that they don't need to lie about, which is kind of baffling to me. And they even lie about things that are readily verifiable, which is also kind of baffling to me. And if you want to know more about, specifically about narcissist lies, I would highly recommend that you check out my video called Narcissists' Most Common Lies. And I actually do have an accompanying podcast to that too. So for those of you who like to get your information in different kinds of mediums, I do have a podcast. It's on every single outlet where you can find podcasts, and it's called Negotiate Your Best Life. And you can check out that show on Narcissists' Most Common Lies there too. But going back to what the most dangerous lie is, it is not what you think. It's not like, what are they saying that's so dangerous? It's more how it lands for you. And that's why it's so dangerous. And that is the lie that you desperately want to believe. And the reason why that is so dangerous is because they are constantly packaging their lies in a way that you will believe, that you want to believe, that might be plausible, that seems real, that allows you to ignore those red flags that may be going up in your head. And if you want to know more about why people ignore narcissist red flags, I highly recommend you check out my video on that. Anyway, you will be getting these lies, and you're realizing something is off, and you see something, maybe you see a text message come through that doesn't seem right, and you confront them on it. And they have some plausible explanation for it. Or it might not even be all that plausible. But you're just like, you know what? I want to believe this person. I want to believe that my whole life is not a lie. I want to believe that this person actually loves me. I want to believe that I'm not in business with a shark, with somebody who is awful. I mean, they don't seem terrible all the time. Sometimes they seem good. And so you end up processing something in a way that ends up, maybe they get away with their lie because you want to believe it so desperately. And that can happen in a number of different ways. So one of the ways that they package their lies so that you will believe it, which becomes dangerous for you, is something called future faking. And what happens there is that they say, yeah, you know what, this happened, but in the future, here's what life is going to look like. So if it's in business, I'm going to start participating. I'm going to generate all these sales. I'm going to do all this stuff. I'm taking the lead on this particular effort, whatever it is. And then they don't ever do it. And that's future faking. But in that moment, you really, really want to believe it. Same thing if it's in a romantic relationship. You know, you get that text message, or you see that thing happen, or they didn't show up for something, or they didn't do something they were supposed to. They didn't get you the birthday gift they were supposed to. They didn't take care of your kids the way they were supposed to, or blew off your mother, or whatever it is. And you call them out on it, and there you go, having a conversation, which is, you know, that's never going to happen again. Let's forget about the past. Let's just think about the future. Let's just take it from here forward, because from now on, you are going to feel appreciated. You will get everything you deserve. You are the best at everything. And whatever comes out of their mouth that they have to say in that moment, for you to believe them. And, you know, for a variety of reasons, sometimes you just want to believe them. So you do. And so more time goes by. And now you're investing more of your life and more of your time and more of your energy into this person. And the more you invest, the more you want it to work, the more you want to believe the lies. And if you just think that they are such liars, give me a liars in the comments. Okay, so the next reason why the way they package their lies is through gaslighting. And gaslighting is something that they use to try to make you think that you're crazy. And if you want to know more about gaslighting, check out my video on narcissists' favorite gaslighting techniques. But they use gaslighting to try to make you think that you're crazy. So, and I've mentioned this before, but I haven't mentioned it in a while, so I'll mention it again for those of you who don't know. It actually comes from this old movie called Gaslight, and I think it was even a play before that, and then it became a movie, and it was like from the 30s or 40s, where the husband was trying to make the wife think that she was crazy. So he would blow out these gas lights throughout the house, and she would say, "Wasn't that just lit?" And he would say, no, it wasn't. And she would then, you know, he was hoping that she would lose her mind. And that's what happens with narcissists. They start to gaslight you. They start to say things that are different than what was said before, or to try to make you believe that something happened that didn't happen, or something did happen that didn't happen, you know, and they just rewrite reality. So, you know, I had a client one time who the ex-wife, the narcissistic ex-wife, threatened to call the authorities on him if he picked up the child at a certain time or something, a time that he was entitled to pick up the child. But she said, if you do, I'm calling the authorities. So he emails her back and says, you know, I really don't appreciate you threatening to call the cops on me, and this is exactly why I want this, this, and this done. And I want you to sign this agreement. Well, now she doesn't want to sign this agreement. She doesn't want to do these other things that he wants her to do. So she turns around to try to use it against him in a way and say, hey, I never said I was going to call the cops. I said I was going to call the authorities, which is something different. And you know darn well that when she said, I'm calling the authorities, she meant the cops. But there's a perfect opportunity for her, or perfect example of gaslighting. So now she's saying, that's not what I meant. And so, he's supposed to go, oh, what did you mean? I wasn't that. Okay. And then now you're having a conversation about that. A perfect example of gaslighting. But there's a type of lie. Gaslighting is a type of lie that you might want to believe, where they're saying now something different than what they said before, but you want to believe it because you don't want to believe that you are so wrong. I mean, a lot of times we want to believe it because we don't want to have to admit that we've been in a relationship with someone who is so horrible to us, who's so untrustworthy, who's so dishonest. We don't want to have to believe that ourselves. We don't want to have to think, oh my gosh, how could I have been so stupid or whatever? But just remember that narcissists are master manipulators. They're very good at reading people. They're very good at figuring out what it is that you want in the beginning. So you can't beat yourself up over that. So that's the most dangerous lie. The most dangerous lie is the one that you want to believe. And when you were getting ready to negotiate with a narcissist in any situation, business or personal or divorce or whatever, there is also an example of a dangerous lie, because you might want to believe that they sincerely want to negotiate with you, that they sincerely want to settle the case, that they sincerely want to make it right and have it be something that's amicable, when they don't actually. When they are actually behind your back, stabbing your back, doing things to you, and then they say they're not. You want to believe that. And that's where it can be very, very dangerous as well. Today, we're going to go over something that you probably didn't know was gaslighting. You hear about gaslighting all the time. I mean, these narcissists, they drive you absolutely insane, but they are so stealth. They're so sneaky, and they're constantly figuring out new ways to drive you absolutely crazy. So if you're trying to communicate with them, you're trying to negotiate with them, they are super good at figuring out new ways of confusing you. And gaslighting is one of those really stealthy ways that all narcissists use. And by the way, if you are trying to negotiate with a narcissist, you're trying to communicate with a narcissist, I have a freebie for you. It's my free 15-page ebook. Go to crushmydeal.com, grab it. I've had entire negotiations be won on just this. What they're trying to do is destabilize you, and that's why I created this free ebooklet. Go to crushmydeal.com and grab it. So what they're trying to do is destabilize you, confuse you, and they use gaslighting as a way to do that. By the end of this video, I'm going to give you 8 things that you probably didn't even realize was gaslighting. Okay. So number 1 is making you always feel like you're wrong. You're wrong in this and you're always wrong in that. And just like these little teeny cuts constantly, these little put downs. No, that's not how it goes, or this isn't right, or just little teeny ways in making you feel like the way you're thinking is wrong. Subtly, they don't even have to say you're wrong. They can just correct you and go behind you and correct you. That is a form of gaslighting. It's a form of destabilizing you. It's a form of confusing you. It's a form of making you feel like you're the crazy one, that there's something wrong with you. And so that is a form of gaslighting. And that's number 1. The next one is saying anything that is designed to make you question your brain or doubt your memory or your sanity. And this can happen in so many different ways. We had that conversation, don't you remember? And the conversation didn't go exactly like that. Sometimes they choose pieces of conversations and you say, no, that's not how it went exactly. You had the conversation about something like that, and they add in parts. Or sometimes it's, no, we didn't have that conversation at all. We agreed that I could go away that weekend and you were fine with it. And that conversation never took place at all, and totally question your reality. Or during that argument, you accused me of this, and that you never said those words at all. And they say it so many times sometimes that you start to wonder, like, maybe I did say that. Were anything designed to make you doubt your memory, your sanity, that sort of thing. Sometimes it's you're looking at text messages that look suggestive, and they'll say things like you're paranoid, you're delusional, you're reading too much into it. Anything that is designed to make you doubt your sanity, make you doubt that what you're looking at is what you're looking at, or what your memory is what your memory is, or what you're hearing is what you're hearing. Anything like that is gaslighting. Number 3, blaming you for their bad moods or behavior. You're the reason why I'm angry. You're the reason why I'm upset. You're the reason why I am behaving the way that I am. They are responsible for their moods. They are responsible for their anger. They are responsible for their own emotional regulation, just the same, by the way, as you are for yours. People are responsible for their own moods and their own regulation, and nobody should be blaming anybody else for their own moods and their own emotional behavior or regulation. You can't make me feel anything, technically. I mean, I know we say that all the time, but in reality, we have a choice on how we respond. That's why we say respond, don't react. That's why we say that. Blaming you for their bad moods or their behavior is gaslighting, and it's unacceptable. So that's not okay. Number 4, withholding information from you on purpose. That is not okay. And then, turning around and saying, a lot of times they'll be like, oh, you didn't do this, you didn't know this, you should have known this, that sort of thing. And then that's even worse, but they'll do that, not telling you certain things, withholding information from you. That's gaslighting. If it's a relationship, especially if it's supposed to be a romantic relationship, a business partnership, and they are not, and then they'll turn around, by the way, and say you're the one who's not trustworthy. Think about that. They'll project onto you that you're not trustworthy, and then they're the ones not giving you information. They do that all the time. And the next one is actually closely related. They'll make decisions without consulting you. They'll be out there making decisions without consulting you, doing things without consulting you, living a life without consulting you, and then turn around and accuse you of being the one who's not trustworthy, and making you feel like you're the one who's in the wrong. And when you get upset about it, blaming everybody for the fact that you are upset and the fact that there's a problem in the relationship, telling everybody how horrible you are because the relationship is so bad. That's another form of gaslighting, by the way. Next one, trivializing your concerns and your feelings. All of these things will end up playing into each other, by the way, because now they've withheld information, blaming you for your bad moods, blah, blah, blah. And you bring up these concerns, they will trivialize your concerns and your feelings. You're making too much of this, you're blowing things out of proportion. See how that goes? They went out, they bought a new car, they didn't bring you into that decision. They didn't consult you. They trivialize your concerns, your feelings about it, make you feel like you're in the wrong. One thing feeds into another. It's all gaslighting. It's one big, huge thing of gaslighting. Number 7, calling you names and other forms of verbal abuse. And, closely related to this one, by the way, is making fun of you and then saying that it's a joke. Oh, you have such a big butt. Ha, 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 ha. Oh my gosh, can't you take a joke? You're so sensitive. Can't believe how sensitive you're. So oversensitive. Can't you take a joke? Calling you names. That's all verbal abuse. And that's all gaslighting, because then you're over there feeling like there's something wrong with you because you can't take a joke. Maybe you are oversensitive. And then you'll even tell your friends, I think I'm just oversensitive. That is a joke that we have between us. You'll even defend it to your friends sometimes. Don't do that. Don't trivialize your own concerns to your friends. If it's a red flag and if it doesn't feel good to you, then it's not good. Listen to your gut on this. It's wrong. It's so wrong. I want you to put that in the comments right now. So wrong. It is so wrong. And it is so not okay. If it feels bad in your gut, then you know that it's not good. Listen to your heart. Listen to your gut. Listen to your soul. Your soul knows. Your soul always knows. Your soul is whispering to you. Your soul is telling you something. Your soul is going, hey, this is not okay. And that soul is going to speak louder and louder and louder to you until it says, no, because your soul will survive. And finally, the last one is when you finally are ready to leave, then they'll do things like threaten self-harm, threaten to hurt you, threaten to hurt themselves, play on guilt, maybe try to make you feel guilty if you're going to leave. All of that threatening stuff, that's gaslighting too, because a lot of times they're probably not even going to go through with it, or if they do, it's terrorist tactics, which is why I have my SLAY methodology, by the way. You're going to ethically manipulate the manipulator. That's how you get out. Slay the narcissist. Strategy, leverage, anticipate, focus on you. That's what works. That's how you squeeze them and ultimately incentivize them to get what you want. 10 signs that the narcissist is playing you for a fool. Ready? Let's go. Number 1. They constantly don't do what they say they're going to do. Does this happen to you? They say that they're going to do something and then they just don't bother. This is classic covert narcissist stuff. Passive aggression. I know I dealt with it before because I had a narcissistic business partner. So they smile and they say, sure, I'll do it. And then where is it? When are they doing it? And then you feel bad because you're not saying, where is it? And then how many times you want to have the fight or say something to them, and then everybody else thinks they're so nice. They just don't do what they say they're going to do. What are you going to do about it? How many times you want to have the fight? Right? And then, or it's project and deflect. Oh, I never said that. I never said I was going to do exactly that. You misheard me. That's not what I said I was going to do. Oh, yes, it was. No, I said I was going to do this. It's a game, right? This constant game. That's number 1. They just constantly don't do what they say they're going to do. They're irresponsible. Project, deflect, lie, deny. And then who does it fall to? Who ends up having to clean up the mess? Who ends up having to do the things that they didn't end up doing that they said they were going to do? Well, that would be you, probably, of course, right? I know for me, when I was dealing with narcissists on a regular basis, it would end up being me, because the non-narcissists end up cleaning up the mess and picking up the slack, unless you've got good boundaries. That's one of the things that I teach. Have good boundaries. Step 1, don't run. Have good boundaries. Yes. Number 2, every time you try to bring up a problem, they project and deflect. That brings me to number 2, right? Project and deflect. You try to bring up a problem. That's not me. Wasn't me. Let's not talk about this now. Why are you bringing this up now? I just got home. I'm tired. This isn't a convenient time. This wasn't my fault. It was somebody else's fault. That wasn't what we talked about. It's never exactly, somehow they're like Teflon, and it just doesn't end up being on them. You're too loud, you interrupted, it's just always something. I don't feel well. I had a funeral. Somebody in my family died. There's always something, right? Every single time you try to bring something up, they project and deflect. They're like the ducks with the feathers, with the rain. It just doesn't end up on them somehow ever at all. Again, it falls on you, right? 10 signs are playing you for the fool because it ends up falling on who? That's number 2. Number 3. Number 3, narcissist constantly finds fault with you and never takes responsibility for themselves. It's always your fault, your problem, you're the one. And what's crazy is like if they have a problem at work, they have a problem with other people, they get fired from their job, whatever it is, it's always your fault, your problem. You're the one who causes all the issues in their lives. It's never on them. They never have to take responsibility for anything that ever happens in their lives. It's always you. You're the one that caused it. In fact, if they have problems with their ex, if they have problems with their kids, with their ex, whatever, it's always your fault somehow. That's number 3. Number 4, the narcissist tells you that everyone else thinks that they are wonderful. They're amazing. But you are the problem. Have you heard this before? Everyone else says, but you are. Everyone, this collective everyone. You don't know who everyone is, but somehow everyone says that blah, blah, blah. So, they do this so that you somehow feel small. And you're supposed to believe that they've got this army of flying monkeys that have aligned with them so that you are in control and feel isolated and feel scared to stand up to them or scared to do anything. That's why they say those kinds of things. It's not true. It's not true. Just like they say things to scare you. I know as an attorney, many times people have come into my office and have said things that are just flat out not true. Like, I'm going to be able to take your kids from you forever. And I'm going to take the house from you. And I'm going to take all the assets. And that's just so not true because that's not what the law provides. The law provides for equal division of assets or probably 50-50 custody or whatever it is. But, they say these things, they make these threats, and they're just simply not true. So this everyone else, thinks blah, blah, blah is usually just a bunch of crap, and you just need to not listen to it. All right. That's number 4. Number 5, the number 5 sign that the narcissist is playing you for a fool is that the narcissist has this attitude like everything in the relationship should be your job and everything in the relationship should be optional for them. So, like basically they show up and get to do things, if they want to, but you have to do everything. It's all like mandatory for you. So you're just kind of like the person who is like their servant, and they just kind of show up when they want to and do things if they want. And, but then of course they take credit for everything. And you're not supposed to get any thanks or acknowledgement or be at all, any sort of gratitude or anything like that. But it's just expected, right? So, and that actually kind of leads me to number 6, which is the narcissist doesn't want to have to acknowledge anything that you have done for them. It's all just expected. It's basically kind of like the price for being in their space, because they're just so amazing and so special that you're supposed to just sort of work for them, be their servant, their janitor, their, whatever. And, the price for being in their space is just that. It's just sort of like the bare minimum for being in their space. Right. And then number 7 is that they, in reciprocal, do just the bare minimum back for you. So if you're in a romantic relationship with them, they'll do very bare minimum as far as gifts for you, at the last second, or they kind of begrudge having to buy a gift for you. Or if they do, it's something that's sort of for themselves too, or something like that. They really sort of resent the fact that they have to do anything for you at all. They will, but they really don't want to have to. By the way, if this sounds familiar to you, give me a yes in the comments. Just put yes in the comments, like if any of this sounds familiar so far. We're in 10 signs that the narcissist is playing you for a fool. So number eight, the narcissist lies or withholds information from you and then denies it. So when you go and ask them about whether or not they have lied or denies information, they were like, oh, I told you about that, or I wasn't denying it. It was right there in the open. You could have found that out, or I was doing this, all along. Like they totally deny it. They totally lie about it, even though they were lying right to your face, or withholding information right to your face. They lie or withhold information and then they deny it. Okay. So that's number 8. Number 9, the narcissist did not have your back. They don't support you when you need it, but they expect you to have theirs at all times. It's a constant one-way street feeling. But yet they'll say to you, I have your back. I'm your biggest fan. But yet you know that they don't. You know that they don't show up for you. One single slight against them and they go ballistic. They expect you to have blind loyalty for them. So that's number 9. And number 10, the number 10 sign that a narcissist is playing you for a fool is when you get ready to leave, they'll say whatever they need to keep you, but then they'll pull you back, but then they push you away all the time, constantly. I want you to leave. I want you to get out of here. If it's a romantic relationship or a business relationship, they treat you horribly, constantly. They push you to the edge, basically make you feel like you just want to get out of there. And then when you finally do leave, they pull you back. They do whatever they can to pull you back and future fake you, like things are going to be better, so much better in the future. You'll see. And they'll start doing all the things they should have done in the first place. And then, you get sucked back in. It's this constant push pull. Constant push pull. They push you all the way to the edge and then back in. Push pull, push pull. push, pull constantly. That's how you know they're really playing you for a fool, because you can't get out until you finally do, right? Those are 10 signs that a narcissist is playing you for a fool. All right, the first thing that they do is word salad. And what is word salad? Well, it's kind of like what you think. It's like confusing you. It's like these words that are all mixed up all the time and trying to confuse you so that you kind of don't know what's going on. So here's an example of that. You think something is resolved. For example, out to lunch with somebody, and they say, why did you go out to lunch with this person? I thought I could trust you. It seems like you're cheating on me. And you spend like an hour fighting about this thing, and I was texting you on the way there, and you know that, and you're like defending yourself the whole time, and you think that it's resolved. It's like this craziness because they bring something up as if it's reality, and it's never been reality to begin with. They're also saying two different things at the same time. That, like, they'll say, I'm trying very hard to make this work. And then at the same time, they'll say, I want a divorce, or I can't do this anymore. It's like they're all over the place all the time. Or they'll be asking for second chances multiple times. In the next breath, they'll be, get the hell out of here. I don't want you anymore. They're just constantly constant craziness with their word salad with that. So constantly trying to make you look like you're the one who's the problem, but yet they're all over the place with their word salad constantly. You're the one who keeps being the issue. It's your problem. You are the one who keeps making problems in the marriage or in the relationship, even though you're just over there trying to like survive in this world of craziness. All right. That's number one. Number two is they seed people. They tell people that there's issues, and they start doing this long before you even realize that there's an issue in the relationship or in business. They do this as well, by the way. This is what happened with me in my business relationship. Beware if you are a coworker, boss, whatever. I've seen this with other people as well. So what will happen is, long before you even realize what is going on, they will start dropping little things into conversations. Covert narcissists are the masters at this, by the way. And it will be a little something about somebody. Oh, it's kind of unfortunate that this person is this. Or they might kind of even couch it in terms of caring. I'm so concerned about how much this person, has going on in their home life, something like that, like as if they're caring about the person, but they're also sort of dropping in that this person is obviously very distracted at work. You see what I'm saying? Something like that, where the person might not be distracted at all, but they're kind of like seeding things. If it's a divorcing situation, they might be seeding something to a neighbor like, oh, I'm just so concerned about Tim's drinking. He's drinking a lot more than he used to, or I think he might be depressed or something, and Tim has no drinking issues, but they'll just start seeding things like that. They do this even with marriage counselors, by the way, to make themselves look more like the victim or something like that. So that's number two. They start seeding their little flying monkeys or whatever to try to line up their armies. Number three is they can be extremely disagreeable. Like, for example, they'll just drag their feet on things. They're like passive aggressive, just not doing things that they say they're going to do, refuse to go along with certain plans or agree that they're going to go along with certain plans and things like that, and then do it at the last second. And then say, I agreed. I said that I would do it or whatever. But then they don't do it until the last second. And then they make it look like, I said that I would do it. And then they make it look like you were the one who was the problem because, you were complaining the whole time. What are you talking about? Why are you complaining? I said that I would do it. And so then it makes you look like you were complaining over nothing or just being somebody who just bitches and moans to everybody because look, you did what they're complaining about. What are you talking about? So they foot drag or they criticize or whatever, but then to the rest of the world, it looks like, what are you talking about? So that's the next one. The next one is they just ignore or break promises or forget to do things or whatever. But then, you are the one who has to take the fall for these things. So this was especially the case for me, in a business situation or whatever, especially if they know that they can get away with this and have you look like the one who's going to be the one who takes the fall for it and be the one who is the face of that situation. I've seen this so often in a business situation, where they can break promises, ignore promises, forget to do things. These are so much covert narcissist moves. Wherever there's that plausible deniability, they will definitely take advantage. The next one is what we call toxic amnesia, where they don't remember faults of their own, but they highlight your faults. So, they make sure that they are always the perfect one, but you are the one who is the bad one in the relationship. They're constantly judging you. They're constantly remembering all the things that you did wrong in the relationship, but they never remember any of the things that they did wrong in the relationship. And I'd love to know so far which ones of these you guys have seen and which ones you guys have had to live with so far. If you guys have seen any others, let me know in the comments. And if you've seen any of these, give me a totally in the comments. And I'd love to get some feedback from you guys and which ones you've seen so far too. Number 6 is they file false pleadings over and over again. And they make it seem like where there's smoke, there's fire. That is just so not true when it comes to narcissists. They will file false pleadings, make it seem like, oh my God, there definitely must be something going on with this person. Conversely, the other thing that they do is they will just not respond to pleadings a lot of times, or they'll file just partial responses and things like that. It's so frustrating as an attorney, that's for sure. Just so annoying. And it's expensive as well. So expensive, which is why I have my Slay program out there, by the way. And if you want to just get started with something free, just go to winmynegotiation.com and you can get my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet. It's a free ebook. It's 15 pages, which will get you started. I mean, actually, many people have actually won their entire negotiations just on that. So if you want to get something that will totally get you started, just get my free ebook and get started with that. It will totally help you so much. Literally, I think close to 100,000 people have downloaded that and got started with that. So totally free. It's an ebook, my gift to you. So just get started with that. And also join my free private Facebook group because that will help you tremendously as well. Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. That is a huge support group, which will help you quite a bit also. And the last one is the best one, best, worst, however you want to look at it, is that they bait you and then they use your reaction against you. I mean, can I get a totally on that? Oh my gosh. Bait you. I call it reactive abuse. Bait you and use your reaction against you, right? So any assertiveness that you show at all, anything, if you object, if you are angry, if you're upset at all, if you show any outrage, if you are anything at all, then that is totally turned around, used against you, and you're labeled as hurt, aggressive, you're aggressive, and then you are cast as the abuser. You're cast as the one who is the problem. And especially if they can somehow use it against you in court, they definitely will. So be very, very careful about that. Remember that anything that you put in writing is a potential trial exhibit. Make sure that you're super careful about that in text, emails, on social media. Anything you put your hand to is a potential trial exhibit. So be super careful about that. All right. One secret tactic that is guaranteed to put a narcissist in their place is narcissistic fluffing. And I know this seems so crazy, but it's bartering to get what you want. I call it fluff for favor, vomit later. So what you do is you ethically manipulate the manipulator. You go up to them and you say, hey, can you do the QuickBooks? You are so much better at it than I am. And so then you get something that you want. They do it. And then, if you need to go vomit or shower later, that's fine. But you got something that you wanted, and it puts them in their place. You got something that you wanted, and they're none the wiser, right? So it's a little secret tactic that's guaranteed to put them in their place. You take your ego out of it. Fluff or favor, vomit later. So that's one secret tactic that's guaranteed to put a narcissist in their place. Another secret tactic to put a narcissist in their place, it's a great way to gather leverage against them, is to keep them talking. They have no idea what you're doing. They love to talk about themselves. They love to tell you all about what's going on. And then you will figure out what's actually motivating them. Remember that what really motivates a narcissist is how they look to the world. What I call diamond level supply. That supply that feeds them, that motivates them, is their ego. So it could be that new girlfriend or that the employees that they work with, whoever it is that makes them, that beefs up their ego the most in the world. It could be those A-level people that are around them, right? Whoever it is that's motivating, that's driving them, keep them talking, because they will tell you what's motivating them. They cannot help themselves, and that will help you in the long run. Okay, keep them talking, find out what's motivating them. That will help you. That will help you put them in their place. Next, the next secret tactic to guarantee to put them in their place is get them to respond to you in writing as much as possible. They always lie. They always contradict themselves. And then that becomes fantastic leverage for you. If you keep track of all of that, then you will be able to put it all together and use that against them as leverage. They will never believe that you actually took the time to put all of that together. Now, remember to use one form of writing as much as possible with them, because if you use text, or if you use all these different forms of email, or all these different forms of other types of writing, they will use all these different ways to make your life miserable. They're DMing you in your Instagram, in all these different forms, and it drives you absolutely crazy. And on top of that, if you end up having to go to trial with them, you're trying to remember, where was that? Where did that come in? Did that come in through my Facebook messaging? Did that come in through my Instagram messaging? Where did that come in from? And you don't want to have to deal with all of that, and you don't want to have to try to remember that. So you want to try to keep your writing in one form as much as possible. And you really should have it be email if possible. Really should be email if possible, because if it's email, then you have a time and date stamp. It's something that's provable, and it's the least likely to be manipulated down the road. When it becomes a trial exhibit, they're much more difficult to be entered into as evidence, because when you go to use them as trial exhibits, they want the entire conversation usually. And so texts are not usually great for trial exhibits. You usually need to have an entire conversation, and that's why email serves as a better form of writing. And I really do recommend that when you're talking to narcissists, because they will lie. They literally will say something and then completely contradict themselves in just one conversation later. They will say, I don't want to have to be in this job anymore, whatever they say. And then 10 minutes later, they'll say, I never said that, as if you are dealing with an insane person. So, as much as possible, you want to have them be in conversation with you in writing. And a lot of this, by the way, is in my Slay program. But one of the ways that you can really start to gather all of this is by using my Crush My Negotiation Prep Worksheet. It's a 15-page ebook, which you can definitely get at winmynegotiation.com and get that free ebook and get started with that. If it's everything all in one place. So go get that to get started. Okay, so number 4 is call them out when things aren't adding up. When they literally just say, I didn't say that, you can just say, but you did. You have the right during conversations to say, I can see that you are saying things to me that aren't truthful, or we can resume this conversation when you're ready to have a conversation with me that is truthful, or something like that. I mean, call them out when things aren't adding up. But, you do need to be careful, because if you are dealing with somebody who is volatile, then you don't want to put yourself in any kind of harm's way. You certainly don't want to do that. Other thing I do want to caution you on with this particular one is that if you are going back to number 3, where you are catching them in lies in their writings and things like that, you don't want to let on that you know what you have. All right. So be careful about that. The next one is act like you don't care. That is guaranteed to put them in their place, because if you don't care, then it just absolutely drives them bonkers. They just can't stand it when you don't care what's going on. Nothing drives a narcissist crazy like your complacency, like your apathy. That's the one thing they want more than anything, is your rise, you to be engaged with them. But if it's sort of like a pushback thing where you're not pushing back, then they don't have anything giving them that supply. If you see the truth in what I'm saying so far, put truth in the comments below, because you know that what I'm saying is the truth. The next secret that's guaranteed to put a narcissist in their place is stop defending yourself. When you defend yourself, you are literally saying to them that there is something there. You're giving credence to their arguments, and you definitely don't want to do that. Never explain, never justify, never overshare, never defend yourself. You can stand in your power. When things are filed, motions are filed, when letters come over, I know that that's your first inclination, is to go, oh my gosh, you want to defend yourself on everything, point by point by point. I know I do too, but do not defend yourself. That's number 6. Another secret tactic that's guaranteed to put a narcissist in their place is to stand your ground when they try to move goalposts. Certainly don't negotiate against yourself. I've seen people do this all the time. Well, they haven't responded. Let me go back and maybe reduce or something. No, stand your ground, especially when they try to move goalposts. You stay firm. Do not allow them to do that. When they move those goalposts around, they are jerking you around and they're getting supply from that, and don't allow them to do that. They're doing that because they want to see that rise from you. Don't allow that. Let it go. The next thing is to create strategy before making your moves. It is so common when you're dealing with a narcissist to feel you're constantly in survival mode, and you just are swinging all the time, and you feel like you're just putting out fires constantly, and you don't have time to sit back and create a vision and to create an action plan. But you need to create that strategy before you make your moves, and then you will be standing in power, and you will actually get to the goal of where you want to go. It will be so much more powerful for you. The next thing is to create invincible leverage. Going back to what I said in number 3, which is where I started to create the foundation for this, is to create an almost like an invisible fence around that narcissist. Once that fence becomes visible, it's almost like turning on the light, and they realize, oh my goodness, I'm cornered. It'll be so much more powerful for you. I'm setting you up for the SLAY methodology here. You see that? Strategy, leverage, anticipating where they're going, being 2 steps ahead of them. And then finally, number 10 is focusing on you being on the offensive, your incredible 100% super powerful mindset. You have to believe that you can win before anybody else can help you. But if you don't believe that you can win, nobody can help you. You have to believe it. And then that's the most powerful secret tactic that's guaranteed to make sure that you are going to be the most powerful person in whatever room that you stand up in. Because let me tell you, there are always going to be narcissists in this world. They will always be toxic no matter where you go. But if you focus on your powerful mindset and how strong you are, that's kryptonite to narcissists, right? So tell us about this 6-week process. I mean, because I think a lot of people feel more than muted. I think a lot of people feel broken, so, how do they pick up these pieces?
Yeah. So, and I think that if you are new on your journey, or if there's, something that's been whispering in you and you want to give it a try, I think that the book serves as a really great primer. And I think that if people have been on this journey for some time, I think, and those who I know who have read it, have verified that they feel validated by what they read. Like, oh yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. So the book, again, is very intentionally structured the way it is, and there's a few things on the background. One is that, as I mentioned, it's in 2 parts. So 3 weeks and 3 weeks. And the reason I made them 3 weeks each is because there's some studies on habits being made or broken within 21-day time frame. It's not that cookie cutter, but there is some of that baked in. And then I also made the process very experiential. So there's exercises throughout. And that's important because I wanted it to feel like a immersive experience and not have it be conceptual. I say that it's the difference between thinking about jumping out of a plane, skydiving, and actually doing it like, oh my God, you know? The first week is all about detoxing our mind, because that's the biggest culprit. It's the thing that stands in our way. And I could talk more about that. Week 2, which I think will particularly resonate with your listeners and viewers, is all about our heart, detoxing our heart. And week 3 is about detoxing our body, but not the way that we would think about it, beyond the eating right, sleeping right, and such, but truly honoring our bodies as our only sacred vessel through this life. And then the second part is, so you do a lot of excavating, and once you've done so, it actually becomes a byproduct, because you're, I should say, connecting with your soul becomes a byproduct of all the excavating. So once you find your soul,
Yeah.
there you've been.
Not that it ever left, but yeah.
Right. But I mean, actually seeing it, like truly looking within and seeing it.
Yeah.
Then what do you do with it? So chapter 4 is my very, very favorite chapter of the book, which is all about play. And I could talk about that, the importance of play in adults, in and for adults. Week 5 is pretty much is as woo-woo as I get. And that is all about finding one's true north, and the dance between soul and spirit, and how the soul is different than the spirit, but both are very needed. And week 6 is about rewriting one story. I called it, for a while, the working title of the book was Manifesto Like You Mean It. The O being in parentheses in manifesto. So manifest like you mean it. And it's also, everything is very step by step. I wanted to hold people's hand and walk them through it. So it isn't like, hey, go live your best life. I actually have like a Venn diagram of how to rewrite your story. So
yeah. Well, I'm going to go back to chapter 1. How do you like excavate your mind? Because I always joke that I can never leave my thoughts unsupervised. Like,
well, that's actually a gorgeous leaping point. So we go through life believing everything we think. Multiple studies show that we have somewhere between 17 to 65,000 thoughts daily. 80% of them are negative. 95% of them are repetitive. So what you're supervising is a massive negative washing machine that's happening. And we believe it. We wake up at 3 a.m. and believe it. I used to go into major panic attacks right around 3 a.m. And I was a total insomniac, because I thought, you know, if I didn't hold the world together, who would? And the truth of it is that our mind, you know, the amygdala, I have a section in chapter 1 about the amygdala, and I call her Amy G. Dalla. And I say that Amy and I have a love-hate relationship, because the amygdala truly doesn't know the difference between perceived fear and real fear. So it comes in handy if you're about to get hit by a car or fall off a cliff, but the same thought process, the same patterns happen when you think about, you know, someone who may cause you harm, which may not be real at all, or something that will happen that may not happen at all. And it's the same level of it. So minding our thoughts is super important. And the way that we do that, and I am not the first to say it, is to step outside of them. Meditation is a great way of doing it. But not everybody is a meditator. So I talk about various ways of doing that. But truly, the ability to step outside of one's thinking and realize that we are having thoughts do not have us, was one of the biggest aha moments I've ever had. And it's one of those things like riding a bike that once you get it, you can't unknow it. So now when I go into panic mode or whatever, I'm like, could this be real? Yeah. Could it be not real? Yeah. Am I going to hold on to it? No. So, and there's the story of the wolf you feed. I don't know if you know that Native American.
I'm very familiar, but I don't know if our listeners are. So yeah, I think it's great. It's like a Native American story. Yeah.
Yeah. A child goes to a chief and says, I have these, I have good thoughts, bad thoughts, and I'm not sure what to do with it. And he compares it, basically, I'm totally paraphrasing, but he compares it to a mad, dangerous wolf or a peaceful wolf, and basically says it really depends on which one you feed. That's the one that becomes stronger. So, and again, I'm totally paraphrasing, but so we can't control what comes into our minds, but we can certainly control what we concentrate on. So that's part one of the book, the week. And then the other part of it is really limiting the content that we consume, because from the time that we wake up to the time that we sleep, we are bombarded with content. And so much of it is mental junk food. So I spend some time talking about how to do that. So between those two, there are other little nuggets as well, but those are the two big nuggets of that chapter. Once you actually practice it, it is life-changing. So
yeah,
that's the one.
I know for me, I always joke that, if I don't supervise my thoughts, I end up like, in the ghetto somewhere, like, like that neighborhood.
We do all.
So, all right. So now let's head into week 2, which is the heart, I think you said.
Yeah, week 2, I think will really resonate with your viewers and listeners, because it is all about the heart. And what is most important about our relationship with our heart is to not task it with the wrong things. So they say, follow your heart, which is a complete misnomer. People refer to our hearts as the inner child. I call it our inner puppy. Because truthfully, what does that inner child want, or that inner puppy want? It wants to be loved. It wants to be encouraged. It wants to be supported. It wants to be cared for. Would you allow your child or your puppy to lead the way? No. When people say follow your heart, they truly mean follow your soul. Your heart needs protection. It needs your attention. It needs your care. And that is all. So feel all the feels. And I talk about the basic emotions and the complex emotions and why there is the need for them, and not making one good or bad. Like we're also, such happy addicts, right? Be happy, be happy. And truly it's contentment that we're aiming for, not happiness, because happiness is ephemeral. It comes, it goes, much like our thoughts. It's contentment, it's fulfillment that is lasting. one of the most important parts of the chapter is what I call, it's a filtration system that I call taser, shield, filter, or hug. And again, I think this will resonate with your viewers and listeners. The shield is, and I tell people, I say that because I believe so strongly that one's heart needs protection. Yeah. And frankly, by protecting it, by caring for it, you truly set it free, because again, it's not bogged down by tasks that it doesn't need to do. Your heart or your soul, I mean, your mind or your soul can take care of it. But I tell people to gauge situations and people in their lives as you interact within it or with them. Does this person expand or contract my heart? And you will know the answer fairly immediately, and you should really listen to it. But the filtration system that I talk about in the chapter is called taser, shield, filter, or hug. Taser are those toxic people that should not be in your life, and you know them, taser them out. And not like real taser, but emotionally, mentally, psychologically, spiritually taser them out. Shield is a little bit more difficult because those are people that are difficult, who you have to have in your life. Maybe it is your ex who you have to co-parent with, or a boss that you may not particularly like. Creating very, very strong boundaries with those people and keeping them. Filter is not oversharing yourself with, not everybody is your people. So don't go on social and just share, you know, the fight that you had with your neighbor, or, you know, whatever it is. If people don't have full context for what you are going through, they're going to add their own story, and it's not going to go the way you want it to. So do not overshare. And then the hug section is my favorite. That's your tribe. Those are people who, as Brene Brown says, have earned a seat at your table. And those people you allow to criticize you, you go deep with them, and you are very, very real with them. So, and I could talk on and on about week 2, but it is especially important for those who are in unhealthy relationships or in relationships with narcissists, because it isn't a matter of really even dealing with the other person. It's truly protecting your heart in a way that protection is so evident that they can't penetrate it. So it isn't this battle. It's purely creating this like super defiant, I don't even want to call it like an aura that they can't penetrate.
I love that.